Welcome to Sleeper Mysteries. Some mysteries are famous because they are loud. An explosion, a public crime, a plane crash. But the most haunting mysteries are often the quiet ones. The ones that begin with a simple departure and end in a profound, unending silence. Today we investigate a disappearance that struck at the very heart of American political power. A story of a brilliant woman, a devoted father, and a ship that sailed into the winter sea and vanished from the face of the earth, leaving behind a 200-year-old mystery filled with terrifying possibilities. This is the story of Theodosia Burr Alston and the lost schooner, the Patriot. To understand this mystery, you must first know the woman at its center. Theodosia Burr was the daughter of Aaron Burr, the third Vice President of the United States, a man famous for his duel with Alexander Hamilton. In an era where women were rarely educated, Theodosia was a prodigy. Taught by her father, she was fluent in multiple languages, read Greek and Latin classics, and was known for her sharp intellect and political savvy. She was the center of her father's world. She eventually married Joseph Alston, a wealthy plantation owner who would become the governor of South Carolina. But her life was marked by tragedy. In June of 1812, her only child, a young boy named Aaron, died of fever. Theodosia was shattered by grief and fell into a deep, debilitating depression, her own health failing. Meanwhile, her father, Aaron Burr, had returned to New York after years of self-imposed exile in Europe, following his duel and a controversial treason trial. Hearing of his daughter's tragic loss and desperate to see her, he begged her to come with him to New York. Despite her illness and the extreme dangers of sea travel in the winter, especially during the War of 1812, with British warships blockading the coast and pirates prowling the shipping lanes, she agreed. She had to see her father. On December 31st, 1812, Theodosia Burr Alston boarded a small, fast schooner named the Patriot in Georgetown, South Carolina. Her husband, Governor Alston, couldn't travel with her due to his wartime duties. To ensure her safety, the ship was a former privateer built for speed to outrun potential threats. Governor Alston had a friend, a Dr. Timothy Green, accompany his wife to care for her. With a small, experienced crew, the Patriot put out to sea, heading north. It was the last time any of them were ever seen alive. Weeks turned into a month turned into 2. No word arrived. Aaron Burr walked the docks in New York every single day, desperately scanning the horizon for the sails of the Patriot. But the ship never came. No wreckage was ever found. No bodies ever washed ashore. The ship, its crew, and the brilliant daughter of Aaron Burr had vanished completely. So what happened? The simplest answer is often the correct one. The ship's path would have taken it directly past Cape Hatteras, the infamous graveyard of the Atlantic. A severe storm was reported in the area just after the Patriot's departure. It's entirely possible the small ship was simply overwhelmed by a winter gale, foundering in the massive waves and sinking so quickly that no one had time to escape. For years, this was the accepted tragic explanation. But the silence from the sea was too complete for many to believe. This is where the story descends into a much darker, more violent territory. The Carolina coast at the time was infested with pirates. Not the swashbucklers of Hollywood, but brutal, desperate men. Years after the disappearance, a story emerged that has become a chilling part of the legend. A man, near death in a Texas hospital, confessed to having been a pirate on the ship that took the Patriot. He claimed they seized the vessel, and after looting it, forced the entire crew and its passengers to walk the plank. He described a brave, calm woman in a white dress, Theodosia, who walked into the sea without a plea or a tear. Another, even more sinister theory points not to pirates at sea, but to predators on land. The Outer Banks of North Carolina were home to the so-called bankers, wreckers who would intentionally lure ships to their doom. On stormy nights they would tie a lantern to a horse's neck and walk it along the dunes. From the sea, the bobbing light would look like a ship safely anchored in a harbour. Captains, desperate for shelter, would steer towards the false light, only to run their ships aground on the hidden sandbars, where they would be torn apart by the surf. The bankers would then swarm the wreckage, killing any survivors and plundering the cargo. Could the Patriot have been a victim of these land-based pirates? But the most compelling and ghostly piece of this puzzle emerged nearly 60 years later, in 1869. A doctor was called to treat an elderly woman in the remote outer banks of Nag's Head. The woman was poor, living in a simple shack, but the doctor was stunned to see a beautiful, incredibly lifelike oil portrait of a woman hanging on her wall. The painting was of the highest quality, clearly out of place. He asked the woman about it, and she confessed it had come from a shipwreck many, many years ago. She said her husband, now long dead, had been one of the men who salvaged items from the wreck. After the woman passed away, the doctor took the portrait. It was eventually identified by the Burr family. It was a portrait of Theodosia, one she had known to be carrying with her on the ship. The old woman's story implies that the Patriot did not sink in a storm, but was wrecked upon the shore, its contents salvaged, and its survivors silenced. A storm at sea, a pirate attack, a deliberate wrecking by coastal predators. We will likely never know the true fate of Theodosia Burr Alston and the crew of the Patriot. All we know for certain is that her disappearance broke her father. Aaron Burr lived another 23 years, but friends said the light in his eyes died with his daughter. He died believing she had been captured and murdered. The story is a chilling reminder of the perils of the past, but it's also a profound human tragedy, a story of a daughter undertaking a dangerous journey for the love of a father, who sailed into a mystery that endures to this day, leaving behind only silence and a single ghostly portrait that washed ashore. What do you believe is the most likely fate of the Patriot? Let us know your theory in the comments below. And if this piece of lost history has captivated you, please like, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more of history's quietest and most disturbing mysteries from Sleeper Mysteries. Stay curious.